I have just enough time to hit a Goodwill that's still open. Today we are looking for orange, the color of the week. Here's a sad reminder of why silver plate is just a tough sell these days. Maybe people will start wanting to entertain like this again just for fun or have a set just to show, but because of the issue of polishing, this is going dark. You can see where someone tried polishing it before and the polish got stuck in the detail and they just gave up. This is a Webster Wilcox set made by Oneida. This would have been over $125 new when I was involved with the Oneida store in the outlet center 30 years ago. It is $29.99 here. Fantasia. We're a little south of Disney in this part of Central Florida. This is the part of Central Florida that's more known for ranch lands and country living, and this town for antiques. It's always worth it in a thrift store to take a moment with the wood pieces because you never know if you might see something that was Hawaiian monkey pod. Most of these look like they are Philippine or Thai teak, but always worth a quick look. I always wonder in a town that has a lot of antique stores whether the antique dealers really pick this place or if they bring stuff out from outside of states. Nice little Sorrento music box, but you can see what happens to these if they get any sort of bad interior climate control. They will crackle with that shellac finish there. And this one also, something was set on it. So we're going to leave that for $6.99. It's 87 degrees. Perfect day for that. I keep looking for games that I haven't seen Fatbird Finds play on their channel. I don't see anything that I don't think they've already done that. Books look mostly new. I have the Calvin and Hobbes 10th anniversary book. What a great strip. And you know, I have a lot of respect actually for the fact that he did not sell out on the merchandise. That's why you don't see Calvin and Hobbes merchandise. Okay, here we are in the hard goods. These are very 70s looking. I have a feeling they're Japanese. They might be in Arcadia. I wonder if we can find one that actually has a label. Maybe one of the American companies as well. A lot of people did this sort of look. Let's see if there's a mark under the lid. Just a stock number, so that doesn't really tell us much. I don't think these are something that's going to be a big seller if we can't make an identification, because they're cute and they're of the era, but they're not really anything particularly unusual. So we're going to leave those. This goes with that Pyrex pattern. These are the plastic canisters. I don't personally like plastic to use in the kitchen, so that's just my feeling. This is a cute little bowl that looks like depression glass, but I believe it's Arco Rock from France. Notice how it's super pink. Other than Paden City in the US, I don't see this super deep pink color. Also, notice how the tabs on the handles are different. One is a fan and one is flat. So I think that actually is newer than it looks. By newer, I mean about 1980. This is a go-along with Manhattan glass. Anchor Hawking came out with this in the late 30s, and it does have the square Hawking mark, so it's a later piece. You can also tell that because the original ones didn't have the sealing plastic piece on the lid. And this is quite old. It's starting to turn lavender. This is what happens when you leave glass in the sun for a long time. If it's before about World War I, or if it's really well made like elegant depression glass up to about World War II, because they used a lot of manganese as a clarifying agent. And if it sits in the sun, the purple starts to come out. Some people love collecting anything that turns purple, and honestly, this is a pretty plain pattern. For $4, I think it could go to a lavender glass collector. Other glass collectors don't like it because they say that makes it sick glass. Personally, I don't mind it if it's natural, but I have seen people put them under ultraviolet light and turn them deep purple, and that is absolutely not right. This Goodwill still has furniture. That's good. And this looks like an older style in wicker, even though maybe the pieces are not as old as I think. But they definitely have a little more design and flair to them. And that round top, I don't know. I think these do have some vintage. They are asking $65 for the whole set. If you like wicker, now around here, we're getting into the hot and steamy season. But in Arcadia, if you had a nice old Victorian with a porch, this would look great. Up north, it is the season for these, and it would be a great price up there. So this Goodwill does have some old stuff, and a lot of times in the smaller towns like this, they actually do leave the old stuff out for people to find. In St. Petersburg, this is what the Goodwill looks like. These are $12 each. Now, I don't like nonstick. because the chemicals in it can be bad, but this is newer as well. But I do like the colors, and it does remind me a lot of the Decoware out of Belgium that is a generation older. Let's see what else we have down here. A lot of clear glass, a lot of newer items. This is not Falstaff, it's a redware piece that somebody made at home to look like Falstaff. This set of dishes with the pine cones is a transferware set we see out of the 60s, and it is by French Saxon China. This is pine cone. This was another one of the Ohio companies. Not a really expensive pattern, but if you live somewhere where there are a lot of pine trees, it might be a cute thing to have, or in a lodge setting. They also have a bunch of cafe ware. I just got a bunch from the St. Petersburg Yacht Club. This is more basic restaurant ware. Buffalo China. It's a little bit older mark though. And they've got lots of cups and saucers and little plates. If they had the dinner plate, somebody could make a nice set for themselves very cheaply. And this stuff is great because being restaurant ware, you can drop it on the floor and the chances it probably won't break. So if you've got kids and you like old stuff and you're afraid to have fancy dishes around them, this can be a good alternative. What do we have back here? Calendar plates are usually not a great sell unless they have a certain design. That one's 1951. Both of them are actually. The Dutch windmill, not an easy sale for me. And a little more restaurant wear, very plain patterns, some Corel Ivy. This is a pattern I think people will start to pick up. Fairfield, this is another one of these China patterns that people don't buy anymore. Look at the way the silver is wearing off because it was put in the dishwasher. Oil City, Pennsylvania, Centennial, 1971. Looks like there were some neat buildings in Oil City. This is Kettle Springs, Alliance, Ohio. They did a whole bunch of these in the 60s and 70s. That was kind of their main business at a certain point, because they could get little towns that were having events to have them make up a bunch of plates and then sell them to the people going to those events. Unfortunately, that means those are the only places these are pretty desirable, and it's a limited market, so it's $2.99, but I'm going to leave it. Turkey platter. It's smallish for a turkey platter, but it's got the turkey on it, and this one says made in Japan. A little more lightweight than our American one, $17.99. I do find turkey platters do sell, especially around Thanksgiving. Okay, any other goodies here? These drip cuts are later issue, you can see, because they've got the imported by Gemco ware from Taiwan. So when you see these are not 1950s or 60s, these are 1980s and 90s, because there was a lot of interest in 50s and 60s stuff, especially the drip cut syrups. And so notice also the interior is plastic. This Goodwill also has a lot of dollar store type stuff. But, you know, I realize there's a customer here for it. I'm just glad to see that, unlike the ones in the St. Pete area, it's not all dollar store stuff. There are some vintage things. Foil print of the world. And it says right on it, geographic art. Foil art was very popular in the 60s and 70s because it's shiny and it's gold. A very Floridian looking piece here. This looks like brain coral. It may be, but it may be cast. In fact, I would say it's definitely cast, because if it was really brain coral, it wouldn't be made in China and it would weigh a lot more than this. So we're going to leave that. This old pan here is very ruggedly attached. This is how they used to make things back then. Toro ware. Actually, this isn't as old as it looks. It's been used a lot like it's old though. Let's see if this is old. It needs seasoning, and nope, Pioneer Woman. Somebody really used this stuff. The Black Roaster is older, but those are pretty common. I'm looking to see if they might be bringing a card out to restock, because it is later on a Saturday, and sometimes they do that, but Saturday can be too busy for them to restock, and so far I haven't seen one. And the shelves look pretty full, like maybe they did just restock. This one's a USA-made California pottery, I believe. Not anything significant. Ooh, but this is Viking. I'll bet they don't recognize that, and that's a great color, and it's $2.99. So yay, I found something in a Goodwill. Old fishing lure is $19.99, but that's about what I would get. Ooh, a voodoo doll. Oh my. These guys are definitely out of the late 60s, but they're pretty chipped. And then this. That is a very fancy piece there. A little bit of chipping. on the hat as well. But this is a very, very involved piece of porcelain with hand painting and hand application. I don't think this is necessarily something cheap. I'm going to try to pick it up very carefully where there's no flowers so we don't damage it more. And slide it under there. They are asking $12.99. It's got hand-painted garlands. This is actually a nice piece for what it is, and it is Dresden. That is a really cheap price, but unfortunately her arm is missing. There's a lot of damage on this, but still, if this was in good shape, this piece, probably early 1900s Dresden, and even if I knew someone who could restore, I'd be tempted, because at $12.99, this is probably a $300 piece if it was in perfect shape. This is a knockoff of the Joseph Hoffman vases for Mosher. You'll see that it has a very wide, flat top, no beveling like the Hoffman pieces made in the 50s and 60s have. Old Nikes, well, depends how old. I don't think these are old enough and certainly not in good enough condition to bother with. I got my wish, but it's the shoe cart and the clothing cart and not the hard goods cart today, so darn. They also have jewelry in this Goodwill. It's nice to see a Goodwill that has everything. It's really, frankly, annoying and insulting to go to Goodwills where there's no jewelry and no furniture because they don't want to be bothered with them, because you know people are donating those things to them, so where are they going? I realize dealing with showcases takes staff, so I do understand, but it also takes away from the local proceeds and puts it all in the national, which means your local donation is not serving the local area. Ooh, wow, look, this is from Spokane. Cloisonné Emblem Jewelry. Little charm with a little bureau on there, it looks like, by the Jade Tree in Spokane. Wow. Opposite corner of the country. I'll be going there soon. Well, darn, I probably missed out. She said that they had sold so much glass today that they were out of paper. And so, well, hey, I hit the antique shops first. Next time, maybe I'll hit this place first because I actually had fun in a Goodwill. Yay!